Advertising. Advertising budget and creative decisions. An advertising budget may be set in a variety of ways. One way is to follow the percentage of sales method, whereby companies assign a fixed percentage of their sales for their advertising budget. It is a straightforward and reasonable approach and is used by a large number of organizations. The problem with this approach is that during downturns in sales, this method would dictate reducing the advertising budget when more may be needed. An alternative approach is competitive parity. That is, spending at a level comparable to competitors. In some ways, it gives a sense of equality to all participants, but every company is in a different position and has different strategies, with varying emphasis on advertising. As such, use of parity as a benchmark can be questionable. A more systematic way of proceeding is the DAGMAR approach, which stands for Defining Advertising Goals for Measured Advertising Results. The process starts with defining the goals advertising is expected to accomplish. For example, a company may want to increase liking for its brand by 10%. An analysis is then done to determine the number of impressions that is needed and the cost of each impression. Of course, the simplistic representation here becomes quite complicated in practice, which may explain why more companies don't use this approach. Nonetheless, it is a useful approach. We now look at the steps involved in creating advertisements. Step 1. Identifying product benefits and attributes. An attribute is a characteristic of the product, like the size of a car's engine. The benefit is what customers get out of it. For example, a bigger engine may mean a more thrilling ride. There seems to be some consensus that advertising should focus more on benefits than on attributes. Step 2. Developing advertising appeals. This refers to what specifically should be stressed. In our example, the thrill of the ride may have a fun and pleasure appeal, which may be emphasized. Other common appeals include money savings, health, fear, convenience, admiration of others, environmental consciousness, etc. And this is not an exhaustive list by any means. The advertising appeal that is chosen often becomes what is commonly called a brand's unique selling proposition, or USP, something that is special about the brand, which is emphasized on an ongoing basis. Step 3. Executing the message. Once the appeal or the message has been established, the next step is to determine what may be the best way to convey this message. Since consumers are flooded with advertisements, it is important that the creative is strong and effective to get noticed and eventually influence the buyer's behavior. In other words, the advertisement should be able to move the consumer through the various stages of AIDA: attention, interest, desire, and action. Some of the common execution styles include fantasy, humor, demonstration, scientific defense, and testimonials. Sometimes, advertisers use a lifestyle appeal to show how the product fits the consumer's lifestyle. Or they may depict how the product is used in a normal setting, in what is referred to as slice-of-life appeal. Once again, the categories listed here are not exhaustive, and other execution styles may be used. Step 4. Post-campaign evaluation. The final step is evaluating the success of the campaign. This is typically done by comparing pre- and post-campaign standings on the variable of interest, the higher liking for the brand of our example. Data may come from internal sources, as in the case of product sales and market share, or surveys can be conducted if respondents' attitudes and preferences are of interest.